Say one more thing rather explosively.
There are moments in hip-hop when beef goes beyond rap, when it stops being about who dropped the hottest verse or who sold the most records. Sometimes, it turns into something darker, a psychological war fought in public, live-streamed for millions, with lives and legacies hanging in the balance. This is one of those stories. A story about a man who built himself from the mud, a Baton Rouge survivor who turned his pain into platinum records, and another man who built his fame tearing others down. It's the clash of Boosie Badass and Charleston White, a collision between street legacy and internet chaos, between survival and spectacle. The kid from
I want to say one more thing rather explosively. 3 people told me off record. 2 people who have this in a written communication from
Baton Rouge. Long before the fame, before the courtrooms and viral headlines, Torrance Hatch Jr., better known as Boosie Badass, was just a kid from South Baton Rouge. He came up in the trenches, surrounded by violence, poverty, and music. His mother worked multiple jobs to keep the lights on, and the streets became his second teacher. By the time he was a teenager, Boosie had already seen more funerals than birthdays. But he also found something else: a voice. A raw, unfiltered voice that spoke for the people nobody else cared about. When he rapped, he didn't talk about fantasy. He talked about survival. Studio microphone.
He was going to be killed, and maybe tell us, who is they? Well, for once and for all, who is they? Who is the they that he thought were going to kill him?
I'm not a criminal. I'm a kid who was raised to tell the truth. That line, pulled from old interview, sounds almost innocent now. But it's the core of who Boosie always claimed to be, a product of struggle, not corruption. By the early 2000s, Boosie had become a Southern icon. He was the soundtrack for the streets, a symbol of defiance and authenticity. But even as his star rose, the system never stopped watching. Baton Rouge law enforcement saw Boosie not as a rapper, but as a problem, a voice too loud, too influential, too connected to the streets they were trying to control. And soon enough, that attention turned into open war. The first storm. In 2010, Boosie was charged with murder. The world watched as prosecutors painted him as the boogeyman of Baton Rouge, a man who ordered hits between recording sessions. The case was massive, sensationalized, and drenched in racial bias. Boosie sat in a cell facing the death penalty. But through it all, he kept claiming his innocence. When he spoke to the press, his words came out calm, deliberate, almost rehearsed, like he knew the world wouldn't believe him anyway. Studio microphone. My mama come in and say, "Son, what happened?" I tell her straight up, "Mama, I didn't do that." The murder charge was eventually dropped. He walked out of that courtroom alive, but not free, because Boosie's name, his brand, his reputation was
the plane that people have recognized is military. That's tail number N1098L. So this plane left from Texas, went over to Utah right about the time that Charlie got assassinated. It dipped real low. It seemed like, who knows what this plane was being sent there for, but the fact that this plane had been used in the military rightfully alerted people to the fact that they may have had some knowledge. This plane may have had some knowledge of what was going to occur. But one thing I want to clarify for you is that that plane was being contracted. You guys noticed that it was owned by LaSalle Aviation LLC. We are awaiting more information, but I just wanted to let you know that you recognize that. It is strange. It did happen. There's no question. I've been saying from the beginning, this was a military operation. It's very obvious. The more you peel back the onion, it is very obvious that this was a military operation. So it's fitting that you would have a plane that the military certainly
already tied to that darkness. Then came the feds. They picked up smaller state cases, weapons, drugs, parole violations, turning them into something bigger. In the eyes of the government, Boosie was no longer just a rapper. He was a target. Years passed, and the cycle repeated itself. Charges, releases, headlines, interviews. Each time, he came back stronger, more defiant. But behind that toughness was a man haunted by the feeling that the system had him on an invisible leash. The new age of enemies. Fast forward to 2022. Hip-hop wasn't the same anymore. The culture that once thrived on mixtapes and street credibility.
Asking the big question.
The other thing, they said that he took it apart
and then put it back together again, shut the fuck up. Do you know how much time it would take to do that if you were highly skilled?
To disassemble a gun.
To disassemble a rifle so that you can get it in a backpack. And by the way, not gonna fit. Not gonna fit.
In a backpack.
And then somehow or another reconnects it once he gets off the roof? What? This story is horseshit. Like, none of these things make any sense to me. Like, you're telling me that this kid who's not military trained, this guy, first of all, how did he get to the roof? How come nobody was looking? How come nobody was, like, there's a direct line of sight between where he's sitting and those roofs? You guys didn't check? You don't have a drone? Like, that's insane. So he's on the roof, he shoots, he jumps from the roof. He jumps down 14.
Clout replaced respect. Live streams replaced stage shows. And in that new digital jungle stood Charleston White, a man who called himself a truth teller but moved like a chaos merchant. Charleston came from the same kind of rough upbringing as Boozy, but somewhere along the way, he took a different path. He built his brand not by rapping about struggle, but by mocking it. He became famous by tearing down rappers, especially the ones the streets called real. He wasn't a rapper, a producer, or even a journalist. He was something new, a professional provocateur, a man who thrived on controversy, feeding off outrage like it was oxygen. Every live stream, every quote.
Was that one guy who was the decoy. All right, so you got this guy who's an older guy who starts yelling out. Didn't he take his pants down? Took his pants down? This guy was at 9/11. He was at the Boston bombings.
All the hits.
He called in a fake bomb at another place. And then he did this at this thing. Right after, so somehow or another, this guy has the state of mind that the moment someone gets shot, he yells out and says, I did it, and takes his pants down or something like that. I don't know exactly what he did. Then, ready for this? He gets arrested for child porn, right?
They're dead friends. Nothing was off limits. And the more people hated him, the bigger he got. That's the dangerous part about modern fame. Hate clicks pay the same as love clicks. When paths collide. The first spark between Boozy and Charleston wasn't over money or women. It was over Kanye West. When Kanye wore that White Lives Matter shirt in 2022, the entire culture shook. Boozy jumped online instantly, calling it disrespectful to Black America. He said Kanye had betrayed his people for attention. Most fans applauded him, but Charleston saw an opening. He flipped the narrative.
Most interest to me, what I've learned is that his father does not believe, his parents don't believe that their son committed this crime. I was like, huh? Excuse me? That's a far cry from what the media has been telling us. Remember, the media presented
blasting Boozy for meddling in another man's business. He accused Boozy of hypocrisy, claiming he glorified violence while pretending to care about race. It wasn't just disagreement, it was war bait. Charleston started mentioning Boozy's name in every interview, every live stream, every rant. He mocked his voice, his health, his past cases. And when that didn't sting enough, he went lower, dragging Boozy's teenage son, Tootie Raw, into the mix. He called the boy ugly, said he couldn't fight, predicted he'd end up in prison. That's when everyone realized this wasn't normal trolling. This was psychological warfare. Boozy's silence. People expected Boozy to fire back. He's never been the type to stay quiet. But surprisingly, he didn't. In an interview with Tony the Closer, Boozy looked calm but heavy, like a man choosing his words carefully. Studio microphone. I ain't really got no opinion on him. My opinion can send me to prison. He paused. Studio microphone. Once you go to threatening people's kids, talking about they people, you out of line. But I ain't gonna do all that. Certain people you can't respond to, 'cause you might end up back in prison. I ain't getting tricked off these streets. Those words hit different. Because for once, Boozy sounded tired, not angry, just exhausted. He knew Charleston wasn't looking for peace. He was looking for a reaction. And Boozy understood that in this new era, anger could cost you your freedom faster than bullets. But silence came with its own price. Charleston took Boozy's calm as weakness and doubled down. When the troll crosses the line. By early 2023, Charleston's obsession with Boozy's family had reached disturbing levels. When Tootie Raw clapped back online, calling him an old clown and telling him to go die, Charleston responded like only he could, by going for the jugular. He went live and said, "Studio microphone, I hope your daddy die from that diabetes. I hope they forget to send his insulin." That line broke the internet. Even in the wild world of hip-hop beefs, there are still unspoken lines. You don't wish death on a man's illness. But Charleston didn't care. For him, shock was the product. And then, just when it couldn't get darker, Tootie Raw got arrested on a gun charge. Within hours, Charleston was back online claiming he tipped off the police himself. He bragged that he sent photos and reports to the Department of Public Safety. Had shifted online. Clout replaced respect. Live streams replaced stage shows. As the days turned into weeks, the story of Cotta Scott's tragic death grew from a small-town mystery into a full-blown national obsession. News anchors debated every lead, podcasts tore apart every rumor, and social media detectives flooded timelines with theories, some plausible, others pure chaos. What united everyone, though, was a simple, haunting question. How did this happen to Cotta Scott? Cotta wasn't just another name on a list. She was a 23-year-old woman with dreams bigger than her hometown. She had been preparing for her next pageant season, with ambitions to compete in Miss USA one day. Her family described her as radiant, focused, and kind, someone who believed deeply in empowering young Black girls to dream without limits. Her friends remembered her laugh, her discipline, and her ability to light up every room. But all those memories now existed under a cloud of grief and anger because the system had failed her. The investigation into her disappearance began quietly, almost too quietly. Early reports said she'd been last seen leaving a friend's house, but soon, a pattern of disturbing clues began to surface. Security cameras caught her car turning down a desolate street around 11:30 p.m., and then nothing. Her phone went dark shortly after. For days, her family pleaded with the police to act faster, but bureaucracy and caution slowed everything down. It wasn't until a group of volunteers organized a community search that a shocking discovery changed everything. Cotta's remains were found on the outskirts of town, in an abandoned area scarred by old fires. The horror of that moment rippled through the community. Within hours, attention turned toward one man, Kian King, a name already familiar to local police. He wasn't just a random suspect, he had a history. Assaults, arrests, and multiple complaints from women who said he had violent tendencies. To everyone's disbelief, Kian had been out on bail at the time of Cotta's disappearance. The outrage was instant. How could someone with such a record be allowed to walk free? When Kian finally turned himself in, he was hit with several charges: arson, conspiracy to commit arson, and vehicle theft, but not for the crime that everyone was talking about: the killing of Cotta Scott. That missing charge left people furious and confused. Social media exploded with theories that someone else might have been involved, and all fingers started pointing to one woman, Gabby. Gabby had been close to Kian, though she denied knowing anything about his past. But a viral video told a different story. It showed her wearing Kian's hoodie, laughing casually, just days after Cotta disappeared. People were quick to judge, claiming she must have known something. As more people from Gabby's past spoke out, the picture grew even murkier. Old acquaintances from Philadelphia alleged that she had been in legal trouble before for the same kind of shady behavior Kian was known for. And then came the text messages. Screenshots began circulating online, allegedly from Gabby's mother, admitting that Gabby had been in trouble before and had run around with that boy Kian. These messages seemed to confirm what many already suspected, that Gabby wasn't as innocent as she claimed. But the police remained silent. They neither confirmed nor denied her involvement, and that silence only fueled the fire. Meanwhile, Cotta's family held vigils, begging for justice. They spoke not just for their daughter, but for every Black woman who'd gone missing and been forgotten. The pain in their voices was raw. "We want answers," Cotta's mother said through tears at a press conference. "Our daughter mattered. She wasn't just another case." Her words hit home for thousands across the country who had seen too many similar stories and the same way, without justice. Online, the case took on a life of its own. TikTokers posted breakdowns of timelines and evidence, YouTubers created hour-long, deep dives, and journalists scrambled to confirm what was real and what was rumor. The name Caught a Scot became a rallying cry for a larger issue,